Hello, and welcome to a playthrough of Alpine Adventures, but the terrain is not awful. Now, first thing to do is all of these rides. This is how we got here. Cheesy rides which broke the game. But I only needed those to make money in order to lower all of the terrain and then raise it all again. That was a little bit inefficient. We could have just fixed the terrain without lowering it all to the ground and then raising it, but it was fine. It only took an hour and a half. That was what human endeavour could I have indulged in while I was doing that. You know, I'm sure my mind could not have been put to greater things like furthering the human race. No. flattening a useless scenario in a... How old is this? I guess like 20-year-old game is obviously what I should have been doing with that time. That was totally productive. Okay, so I get to get rid of these. Get to unmolish those. It's the year 28. That took a while to fix, didn't it? But we've now fixed it. We've now fixed the terrain. So I'm going to get rid of my cheese wedge coasters. No, I'm going to have lots of guests complaining that it's too crowded here. I want to build a new park. Build a park that I can be proud of. So we're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of frozen cheese as well. Frozen cheese was a good moneymaker, but I might save it, actually. Save it with the scenery. Maybe not save it with the sick. That feels like a bad idea, but thankfully you don't have to save it with the vomit on the path. So we build this again. This will be nice, sort of clean paths. Okay, there we go. So let's save frozen cheese. I don't know if we get that coaster in Ghost Town. So this is the kind of coaster which would be very useful for Ghost Town, where you just have to build stupidly long roller coasters. So, okay. So should I leave Icicle and Stalagmite going? I guess so. Yes. At one point I will move them. Ice Mice can go. Ice Mice I don't need. Stop being sick. That just never worked out, really, did it? Since you get rid of the toilets and get rid of coffee culture and get rid of chicken chalet. Dear, lots of guests are going to be wandering around being annoyed. So, well, let's just accept that our park racing is going to be awful. We're going to get rid of all these rides. There's now nothing to do. Hot dogs and drinks. Simply that much litter in the park. Yes, because litter is clearly the biggest problem with this park. The fact that there's just a single ATM, it's like a cash machine park, obviously doesn't matter to you in the slightest. Ooh, there's some land there which would benefit from being. So this is going to be our kind of verdant foothills. So actually, let's theme this. Let's theme this like a sort of what it used to be like going to France for skiing in the Alps in the before times. So this here, I'm going to kind of when the guests eventually sort of bugger off, as it were. Oh dear, I have lost guests. Oh no. Okay, that's going to be terrible for the park rating. They're not. They're stop crawling over it like ants. That's just, you're just wrong. Oh yes, and I should turn debugging mode off. I don't want to debug anything. I want to de-ant it. I want these guests who are just sort of wandering around. Well, you're just going to leave them there, I think. So let's set up a no entry sign. Let's say no coming in here for you. Do not go in there. Then we're going to let those sort of wander out. Research. Have I researched everything? Yes, I've researched everything. Oh, that's nice. Open RCT2 seem to have set the research costs back to 0 for that. So yes, we're losing all our guests. That's fine. hopefully. I need to get rid of all of this, really. Let's get rid of all of that. That's going to result in more guests sort of wandering lost through the park, but it's fine. The park rating will be awful, but we will survive. Oh, there's one info zone. I'll leave the info zone, actually. I'm quite happy with the info zone being there. That's okay. So let's think about how we want to plan this. We got quite a nice bit of money. I should pay off my loan. So a couple of 100,000. So I'm going to waste some of that, because what I want is to sort of model this bit after quite often when you go up to the Alps and on a skiing trip, you go past Annecy, which has a really nice kind of big lake. So this is going to be the sort of the Annecy land. Oh dear. I didn't mean drowning. That was not a deliberate guest drowning, I promise. It's an accidental guest drowning. It's sort of collateral damage. Oh, Handyman 7. This is bad. Do we have our Safest Park Award still? Oh no. It's gone wrong. It's already gone wrong. Well, at least I still have Handyman O. Mechanic Jones, Mechanic Tim. And Mechanic Boxlean. There we go. That's nice. Gender neutral name. That one is right. Oh dear. This is not good. Let's just ignore that. Let's just pretend that none of that is happening. That's interesting. We don't actually get a railway. I was kind of hoping to be able to build a railway. I could actually build a monorail instead. Mono bother. Right. So I'm going to build a monorail, and I'm going to sort of have this come round the... So this is going to be a nice, sort of simple transport ride, but it's going to go sort of round the edge of the mines, which I think the actual... Whatever massive mine it is in southern France, actually does have a sort of SNCF railway which goes through it. So sadly I don't have the railway. Oh, well, we've already beaten the scenario. Look, we've already beaten it. Okay, so I'm going to go with there is no dishonour at this point. The scenario which is supposed to have a sort of £7,000 ticket income, I'm going to go with there is no dishonour at all at this point in messing with the inventions list, if I can find the inventions list. So, object selection. Sorry, you can see. This is a thing. You can see that I don't cheat because I don't know where to find any of this stuff. I'm going to add this to the manifest. So, the inventions list. I think they should be already invented because I want a railway. Damn it. This is going to be about making this a better scenario than it was. Oops, I want the cheats back off. We're not going to cheat anything else. We've done some incredible cheesy things, but we're not going to cheat anything else. Going to build a nice railway through here. Very much like the actual sort of southern France coal mine. This is because as you sort of have your skiing transfer. I feel kind of odd with this because I'm talking about something which is incredibly, I would say it's incredibly posh. Skiing's kind of lost its sort of it's maybe in the 80s it was the kind of thing that posh people did, but now it's become more just a thing that people who are maybe not posh but just have lots of money to throw on going to sort of France while it's snowing do. Yes, this sort of will not kind of help my cause, but actually, here is something. So I'm going to reveal sort of horrendous Timberwolfian secrets here. So I'm going to make this a shuttle, which is not actually super posh. And you go, well, hang on, how did you start talking like that? That's because many years ago, I worked in the what in London is called the Lloyd's market insurance industry, and Lloyd's with an apostrophe, not Lloyd's with a plural, which would be Lloyd's Bank, which is an entirely different affair. And one of the things that kind of you end up picking up there is there's sort of a, well, I built this transport line. There's sort of a kind of, what's a total disconnect or anything, but there's a, so what we do need to do with this, we need to build a path around this, because otherwise guests will go on the transport ride and they will not be able to get it back. So we get sort of a nice path around the edge of the quarry, or the coal mine, as it were. Yes, so the insurance sort of post-1980s, London market insurance. This, I'm not talking about sort of you insure your car. I'm talking about you have an oil rig and you decide to insure that. Or, as a team that I worked with quite a bit, you have a horse and you decide to insure your horse, because racehorses are worth quite a bit of money. And you can insure them for all sorts of things. You can actually insure your racehorse against the fact that, because obviously you race them and they do a certain amount of racing, and then if they're really good, you put them out to stud. You can actually insure your racehorse against them being infertile when they go out to stud. Yes. This is the wonder of insurance. You know, sort of what are you doing with that insurance? Well, I'm insuring my horse against erectile dysfunction. But no, that is actually a thing you can do. I think there's probably various premiums and risks about it, but where are we getting to? So let's get back to the point that I was trying to get to with this, which is this kind of insurance originally was very sort of, you know, old boys club up sort of through the 70s, and then they kind of realised that as they got into the 80s that there's things that the kind of the old boys network is, that shouldn't be shuttle mode, and the old boys network is good at. You know, when it comes to sales, well no, because sales, the sort of old boys network is, yes, that train's going, so we're going to test that. I'm going to call this SNCF, because there's a railway which goes, well, there. Yes, the one thing the old boys network's not really good at is selling to people who are not part of that network. Good, we do have the mine right. I don't have to cheat this. Stop huffing and puffing over there. I'm trying to tell a story about insurance. Freudian slip there. I'm trying to tell a story about insurance. Yes. So anyway, so up to the 70s, yes, the insurance industry was full of the sort of very old, you know, types who speak the way that I speak upon these videos, even though I'm not one of those types. And the problem is people in that sort of old boys network, they're very good at selling to other old boys, because they do that sort of thing of, oh, hey, you remember we went to the same school? Oh, yes, so we went to the same school, so therefore you must be trustworthy. I will buy the things from you. That feels good. I want a little bit more of a... So I want to go down a little bit on there. Yes, so the 80s, you know, so Britain in the 80s became very, very kind of much more kind of commercially aware, let's say, about sort of getting into that. They're sort of too political for a video about playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. And let's do a helix down, little helix like that. Where am I going with this? So, we need to stop this. Yes, so the thing that it worked out was that insurance, which had been this sort of preserved, kind of very kind of well-spoken gentleman, as it were, kind of said, well, the problem is these people are not amazingly good at basically lost stuck. And the thing that gets lost or stuck is they're just wandering around on a sort of path. Well, the thing is actually, there's people who are very good at selling things. And unfortunately, they are slightly cursed with the fact that they tend to have regional accents. So there was this sort of kind of I guess this sort of tension in the insurance industry between the sort of very kind of old-fashioned sort of, people who became underwriters and actuaries who went to some sort of posh schools and whatnot. And but I guess, well, they were majoritively, it was called Barrow Boys, and this was partly a thing that came because, of course, Lloyd's had a lot of problems in the 80s with its sort of maybe underwrote things that it shouldn't have been underwriting because they weren't necessarily hugely profitable. And they kind of opened up. The thing is, Lloyd's in the 80s, there was quite a scandal because they opened up memberships of Lloyd's because you became a sort of a Lloyd's name. And that was a thing. Can I get away with healing around here? So if I go to helix around here, I would quite like to actually do a large helix. Let's see if I can do a large helix round like this. Can I get away with that? No, I need to go higher. Indeed, higher. Okay. Yes. Anyway, so tell your damn story. Forget about the rolling and the coasting. Just tell your damn story. There we go. So insurers had this kind of this tension between so one of the things was insurance was seen as a very kind of conservative industry, and this is why when they opened up the whole, you can become a Lloyd's name, people thought, well, that's a really, really safe bit of investment, surely. Become a Lloyd's name, it's one of the most stable industries going. And I was like, no, they'd underwritten a load of stuff that they probably shouldn't have underwritten, and it was going to basically take down Lloyd's, which ultimately underwrites all insurance policies issued by a Lloyd's market insurer. That's why you go to Lloyd's, because even if the insurer collapses, the Lloyd's market will ultimately underwrite it. And the kind of looking to, and as kind of happens with, when sort of posh and non-posh people get involved with, the blame cannot possibly lie with the posh people. The blame has to lie with the what they saw as basically, it's all these Barrow Boys we've employed to ensure kind of, utter nonsense because it makes us lots of money. And that kind of was what happened, that a lot of the blame was laid to the door. So how does this, thank you, Mr. Steam Train, how does this ref to an accent? Let's make the transport ride free. I think we can afford it. Well, and how does this do? Oh, that's quite nice. That we can probably charge £6 for. Let's open that. Let's call that coal mine. Let's call it Savoy. Actually, let's call it Savoyard coal mine. I think it's in the Savoy. But yes, so what this actually resulted in was that the insurance industry kind of, they kept the people with regional accents in there because they were like, oh, they're actually really good at selling stuff, and they kind of, doing the kind of being a broker, and I need to call this coal crusher. But there was always sort of, it was seen as, yes, if you're one of those people, it's kind of, you're there to sell stuff, not to actually be involved in serious business decisions. And I kind of, well, when people ask me, you say, why do you make decisions that are not expanding your channel, like sort of casually wandering off into inexplicable 1960s psychedelia? Let's do that. This will mystify me when I come back to it. Inexplicable 1960s toilet. That's more like Les Arcs. That has a lot of inexplicable 1960s and early 70s architecture. Back to the story. Come on. Yes. So one of the reasons why I don't sort of go in overly at trying too much. So I actually have a thing. Oh yes, let's have a revolution pizza. I actually the kind of thing. I was asked about this, which why don't you do sort of more of the kind of very popular stuff like that, tutorials and things like that. But I have a kind of thing that I know that there's people who make good money on YouTube doing doing that sort of thing. And the fact Marcel says, but Marcel of RCT fame says that he's quite open with that he makes a living income from YouTube. And obviously, I don't. I make a living income from being a technology person, and which, let us say that I am better at doing that than I am at playing the games which I feature on the channel. And so I would feel very bad if I was to do sort of very sensible tutorial things, or really sort of overly push the yes, coal nuggets. And if I was to sort of the channel, let's have a little bit of this. So the point where I was taking viewers away from those people for tutorials and things, I'd feel that's not right. I'm like, I already have my income. But anyway, one of the things of being a good at technology person is you need to sort of change minds and make people sort of listen to you and pay attention. And of course, from insurance, hey, we're getting close to a conclusion here. Let's do this. So that this would be nice. We could have a go-kart which does the sort of the lakeside in Annecy. That would be good. Distracted from my story by the game. So yes, one of the things that in insurance is, well, if you speak with what is kind of a normal regional accent, and here, so here is I've got to go back to it because I've spoken so long and there's a different way that I currently speak. But yeah, my natural accent is actually South London. So if you knew me sort of years ago, this is actually how I'd spoken, entirely differently to the way you hear it on the YouTube. But if you do that in insurance and you're trying to explain like complicated things like, this is why we can't do our Solvency 2 data dictionary in this way, it's an exciting industry to work in, you know. That will end up, people will go, oh well, shouldn't you be sort of down with the people selling policies, because you don't sound like you should be someone who's dictating technology decisions. And so it became a sort of practical expedience to basically to talk like the people that I was trying to explain things to. And this is kind of terrible, and because I know, well, let's say, because I record these a bit early, so ahead of time, so probably by the time you view this will not actually be current affairs. We'll have moved on to something else. But in the context where people are talking about sort of regional accents and not being taken seriously, it became it was an expedient thing to just talk at least sort of neutrally. And I go to reveal another horrible secret that this is slightly put upon for this series, the whole sort of ASMR thing of, you're listening to someone very posh talk. But no, the actual truth of the matter is I'm entirely unposh. I am quite, rather than sort of go to Polo or whatever it is the posh people do, I'm far more likely to be found sort of at 1 a.m. trying to buy fried chicken from a chicken shop. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Conga line! Everybody conga. And there we go. There I basically dispel any notion that I'm posh, but probably do reveal quite a bit that I grew up in the 80s, because, that was in parties, but kind of these days with parties, you kind of get wild and you do things that upset your neighbours. But yes, the conga line was a very exciting idea in the 80s. But yes, that is a random tour for that. Is I talk this way through commercial expediency. It's basically capitalism at work. And so, how can I excuse a magic carpet as some sort of coal mining equipment? It would be probably covered in coal dust, so we'll make it kind of dirty and black. And there we go. I know what I'm doing, honestly. There we go. That's good. So, the most disappointing fuck in the country. Oh yes, because our rating's low. Your W is wandering around there and is unable to do anything about it. Oh, yes. Yes, so this is going to be the Annecy Lakeside Drive. And there's actually one thing we should put in here is we should put in a sort of nice pavement as well. Let's go over there. Go around there. We should probably think about drawing this to a close. And I know the episode in which I flattened everything was a rather long one, but I kind of they didn't want to make that too much the norm. And so, actually, what I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to... Well, hopefully the guests can still buy brollies and things. Brolly up. It's like, this is like sort of, in the US, they tell you to lawyer up because the main condition of the country is, getting sued. This is going to get me more dislikes from people in the US again. They're going to be like, no, this is not our country. Please come to it, and you will see it's entirely different from what the sort of media perception of it is. You're being very unfair there to US. Lawyer up, sort of a meme. It's a joke. It's not a real thing that you have to constantly be on fear of being sued. You just have to worry about your medical insurance instead. So to know, but yes, this is like the UK where we tend not to have. People tend not to sue you unless you've done something horribly, horribly wrong. But it does rain a lot, so this is the thing in the UK is you don't lawyer up, but you definitely brolly up, even if a brolly has cost you £20, because this is park. Remember, I say this, we don't need to do this anymore. By the way, we could just charge £2.50 for them, or we could have cheap brollies instead. Yes, what are they going to do around here? I was going to put these in because Annecy has actually, I'd say, quite a nice bakery, but this is probably just because you're on an early transfer and you're kind of, a little bit starved. A little bit starved. You're kind of thinking, oh God, I've got up at 3 a.m. and now I'm in some sort of van, travelling across France, and my blood sugar levels are a bit low and it's not working out for me. But there we go. Oh, this is a nice Annecy bakery, and then I think there's a little sort of parkish kind of bit around here. There we go. Virtual Annecy. There we go. How nice is that? They have some flowers. Bits. And I think, are there any boats? Do we have any sort of nice boaty things in here? No, we don't. Yeah, I've only really got these. We could have these jumping fountains, I suppose. Oh, there's takeaway from the benches. That's not good. Oh, we have a little bit of that. And that, I think, is a nice place to leave it. A little bit late, if anything. And I shall see you in the next episode, where we shall continue building out this park.